The galactic concord had lasted for 1,000 years. A millennium without war, without conquest, without the terrible fires that had once burned across the stars. For most species, peace had become not just a state of being, but the natural order of existence. Entire civilizations had forgotten the sound of gunfire, the sting of loss, the sharp edge of desperation. And then the peace ended. The Veil Dominion declared war. Their fleet darkened the skies of the Concord capital, shimmering black hulls blotting out suns, weapons glowing with stolen energy from collapsed stars. To most of the galaxy, the sight was terrifying. The very word war was something spoken only in ancient history classes, a warning from a forgotten past. But to the humans, they laughed. Admiral Karen, a lean, grizzled officer of the Concord fleet, had expected humanity to react with fear, like everyone else. He stood at the council chamber's edge as the news came through, watching the human delegation. Instead of pale faces and trembling voices, the humans exchanged glances, grins tugging at their lips as if someone had told a particularly good joke. "You find this amusing?" Karen asked, his voice laced with disbelief. One of the human representatives, Commander James Holt, leaned back in his chair and folded his arms. His expression was casual, almost bored. Amusing? No. Predictable? Yes. But funny? Absolutely. The council chamber buzzed with outrage. The Arakhth, a crystalline species whose entire culture centered on diplomacy, clinked furiously. "How can you laugh? The Veil Dominion has weapons we've never seen before. They've shattered fleets on their way here, and they intend to shatter yours next," added another. Holt's grin widened. "Good. It's been too long since anyone tried." The human's confidence was not arrogance born of ignorance, it was memory. The galaxy had forgotten war. Humanity never had. While other species buried their weapons in museums and preached pacifism, humans had kept their knowledge alive. Not because they loved violence, but because history had carved into their bones a lesson they refused to unlearn. Peace was precious, but fragile. Peace without strength was an invitation to predators. The Dominion had just answered that invitation. When the first Veil fleet arrived in Seoul, humanity's response was not panic, but preparation. Factories roared back to life, weapons platforms that had sat silent for centuries hummed awake, and a dozen dusty bunkers opened their gates to reveal war machines that had been kept in perfect working order, just in case. The Veil expected an easy conquest. They met humanity instead. The first battle was fought above Titan, Saturn's icy moon. Veil warships descended in flawless formation, confident in their superior numbers and technology. What they did not expect was the human fleet waiting for them. Not hiding, not retreating, but charging headlong into the fray with a ferocity that shocked even the most hardened alien generals watching the broadcast. The Veil had numbers. The humans had fury. Missiles screamed across the void. Kinetic slugs punched holes through shields thought impenetrable. Boarding pods slammed into enemy hulls, and human marines stormed inside with weapons, knives, and bare fists when nothing else worked. The Dominion had studied the Concord's fleets for centuries. They had not studied humanity, and humanity laughed as they fought. In the council chambers, Admiral Karen watched the feeds in stunned silence. The other species whispered in horror at the savagery, the raw brutality displayed by the humans. But to Karen, what was more shocking was the joy. The humans weren't grim or desperate. They were exhilarated, as if they had been waiting for this moment their entire lives. "They're mad," one counselor whispered. "No," Karen said slowly, realization dawning. "They're warriors." The battle ended not with a clean victory, but with the Veil retreating, bloodied and shaken. For the first time in 1,000 years, a galactic fleet had been driven back. And it had been done by the species everyone underestimated, the ones who laughed at war. Afterward, as the galaxy reeled from the shock, Commander Holt stood before the council once more. His expression was calm, but there was a dangerous glint in his eyes. "You've lived in peace for 1,000 years, he said. "You've forgotten what predators look like." The Veil remembered. So did we. The difference is, He leaned forward, voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "We're better at it." The chamber was silent. For the first time, the other species looked at humans not as allies, not as curiosities from a violent world, but as something else entirely. Guardians, monsters, survivors. The 1,000-year peace was over, and humanity was just getting started.